My name is Rebeca Lopez, and I'm the director of RGV Focus.
Rebecca, it's great to interview you today. Tell us a little bit about RGV Focus.
Sure. RGV Focus is a collective impact initiative with Educate Texas. We aim to improve outcomes for students across the Rio Grande Valley in all 4 counties.
And how long has RGV Focus been going?
RGV Focus is celebrating its 10th year in the Rio Grande Valley this year. Educate Texas has been committed to this work for the last decade because we know that the students here in the Valley have extreme potential. We want to make sure we realize that.
And your mission statement, I mean, when you started out, what was the purpose, and have you achieved any of your goals yet?
So we aim to improve outcomes for students. We really want students across the Valley to be able to achieve a degree or credential that leads to a meaningful career, and we've certainly made strides towards that, but we know we still have a lot of work to go.
And so in recent years, there have been quite a few news stories about how the Rio Grande Valley as a whole, the high schools, have been outperforming the statewide average, that we maybe before we're further down the league table, so to speak, but now we're hitting above our weight.
Mm-hmm. We certainly are.
Punching above our weight.
We certainly are. The Rio Grande Valley is a beautiful, wonderful, unique place, right? We know that our students have enormous potential. The RGV Focus initiative has been here for 10 years, and in that time, I think we've contributed to some of the levers of change that have really led to these wonderful outcomes that we've seen recently. But we do have a lot of work to go. I mean, we want to make sure that all students have equitable access to resources, to a college education, to a living wage career. So all of these things don't happen in silos. We want to make sure we're bringing folks together, and that's what is at the heart of collective impact, working across sectors to make sure that we're improving outcomes for our students and our communities, especially those who need it the most.
Looking in from the outside, the thing that always strikes me about your group, and when you have your gatherings like you've had today, is just how much everyone collaborates. I mean, we always get the complaint that in the Valley we work in silos, but your group, pulling all these different groups together, institutions together, you're working, like you say, collectively. Fair point?
Yes, fair point. I think one of the things that we want to make sure happens is that the momentum that we build when we do come together doesn't end when the meeting ends, right? We want to make sure that this continues way past, 4 o'clock end time, and that we are continuing to talk across sectors, whether that means at a meeting that we convene or, we build relationships within these convenings that lead to outside partnerships. We want our partners talking to each other. We want K-12 talking to higher ed, talking to business and industry. We want to make sure those things happen organically outside of what we do, but we know that sometimes the driver is us, and we're glad to play that part in convening our partners.
Yeah, so that's another aspect, perhaps a unique aspect of your work. Well, at least, maybe not unique, but we don't hear too much about it. Yes, you've got your public ed and higher ed in your group, but you've also got input from industry.
Yes.
Important?
I think super important. Input from industry is essential if we are going to build the workforce of tomorrow. We need to know what workforce needs. We need to know what industry needs, and we can't do that if we don't have them at the table, at the conversation, asking them the same questions we're asking our higher ed and K-12 partners.
And so you need to hear from industry as to what they need. Do they need to hear what the education world needs from them?
Certainly. I mean, we had a lot of today's conversation was around internships, apprenticeships, job shadowing, those types of work-based models that really make a difference in a student's trajectory and their success. We can't do that without our industry and our workplace partners. So as much as, they're learning from K-12 and higher ed and K-12 are also learning from them.
And we should tell the viewers, I guess, at this point, where we are today and why you've convened. This is what you call your fall retreat.
Yes.
And so you've got your membership here. We're in South Far today, and it's been a day packed with, there's been no respite. There's just been one good topic and one good conversation after another. How frequently do you put these on?
Our retreats are done yearly, but really, it drives at the work that we do all year round, right? So we're going to continue this conversation next at our leadership team meeting. Hopefully some of these folks that participated today will join us then. But yes, today's retreat was a little different because we did decide to broaden the audience and reach across different sectors, as we usually do with the leadership team, but also across different levels. So really what we were trying to do here is reach out and hear different voices, maybe that haven't been at the table previous to today's conversations.
So this was an annual event, so I'm very fortunate to have attended the one that you hold each year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
And the keynote speaker today, Alex Mead, an economic development specialist.
Yes.
With Texas Regional Bank. That was a very informative speech he made about the importance of education, the education sector and industry working together.
Yeah, so we brought Alex Mead in because, in talking with him and the conversations that we've had, he really gets it, right? So economic development, again, it doesn't happen in silos. We're all part of economic development, especially because, the students of today are the employees of tomorrow, right? They are the workforce that's going to drive future success for the region. So I think it was a really natural fit. He's behind our mission. Alex, has a wealth of experience, but is definitely supportive of the work that we do as RGV Focus. And so, having him here as a keynote speaker was phenomenal. He had a great story to share and a great message for sure.
One of the best parts for me was the Q&A, and Dr. Danny King from Region 1 said that perhaps among all the economic development corporations in the Valley, there's a tremendous emphasis on recruiting companies from outside and perhaps not enough focus on growing the talented, the companies that we have already established in the Valley and getting them to the next level. That was a very interesting interchange.
Certainly. I think a lot of the conversation today, or I hope a lot of the conversation today, will lead to some introspection, like what are we doing well, what are we not doing well, how can we build on the assets that the Valley already has to create a better future for all, right? That's really what we're here for, a better future, better economic opportunities, development, mobility for our students, for our families, and I think that goes to it, like what assets do we have here in the Rio Grande Valley that we can really build upon to create better outcomes for our students and our families.
So where do we go from here with RGV Focus? What's your next steps?
We have several action networks that we're convening in the coming months, and so we asked today that our partners consider participating in those action networks, really getting down and driving or attempting to drive some change in those levers that will really make a difference long term for student outcomes.
Anything specifically where, I know like we mentioned before, the success stories and how overall the Valley's doing better than the statewide average, but are there any areas of concern that you feel this community needs to focus on?
Certainly the conversations we had today around making those connections between our education system and workforce. I think also, RGV Focus measures a number of indicators from pre-K enrollment all the way through career, and a couple of the indicators dropped significantly because of COVID. So we want to make sure that we're also uplifting the work that's being done in third grade reading and eighth grade math to make sure that those students make up for that gap in knowledge that they experienced during COVID.
And I just thought of another interesting part of today when you had those specialists who were telling us what we might expect in terms of education policy during the next session. What to watch out for. So that was very informative. Yes,
of course. So we, as part of Educate Texas, so RGV Focus is an initiative of Educate Texas, which is a part of Communities Foundation of Texas. So RGV Focus has a large network at its disposal to provide resources and understanding for what's happening locally and at the state level. So we brought in our policy experts, and they help to sort of guide the conversation, help us understand what's happening at the state level and legislation, what we can expect to see coming up in next legislative session. I think that was really impactful for the audience because it's not often that we get an inside view of those things here at the region.
And then you had 3 local school districts that have been doing that rather well.
Yes.
Brownsville, McAllen, and the smaller community of
Rio Hondo.
Rio Hondo. What a story that was.
Yes, so we were able to bring in Brownsville ISD, McAllen ISD, and Rio Hondo ISD to give us some insight into how they're doing their CCMR work, the strategies behind their CCMR work in their districts. To really share with the other districts that participated today, to maybe give them some ideas or some context for how they're doing work and how that can be replicated, especially where they've seen success around their strategies.
Is there anything else, Rebecca, you want to add? Is there anything I've missed that you would like to tell the audience about?
No, I don't think so.
No? We're good, aren't we?
Yes.
We've covered it all.
That was a lot of questions.
There always is with me. I'm sorry.
All right, no,
No,
it was
it's cool.
great.
It's very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
that
so much,
interview.
Steve. Yeah.